Good morning all. Now I am going to explain about construction of a three-phase induction motor. Okay, three-phase induction motor essentially consisting of stator and rotor. Okay, here again rotor again it classified into two types, squirrel cage rotor and slip ring rotor. Okay, based upon the rotor used in the induction motor, the induction machines are again classified into squirrel cage induction motor and slip ring induction motor. Now first we will discuss about construction of a stator. Okay, see here this is the construction of a stator. Okay, this total outer circle indicates stator core. This is stator frame, this is stator core. Stator core is having stator slots. Okay, these are the stator slots. In the stator slots we are placing stator winding. Okay, in case of three-phase induction motor we are using semi-open type slots are used. Okay, now see here, this stator core is made up of with high grade alloy steel laminations. Okay, high grade alloy steel laminations to reduce both hysteresis and eddy current losses. Okay, now see here, this stator core provides space for the housing of stator windings. Okay, already we know that here semi open type of slots are preferred in case of stator. Okay, that is about the construction of a stator. Okay, next coming to the rotor construction. Okay, depending upon the rotor construction, these rotors are again classified into two types, squirrel cage rotor and slip ring rotor, right? First we will discuss about a squirrel cage rotor. Okay, now see here, this is the rotor. Okay, in this squirrel cage rotor, heavy uninsulated copper bars, these are the heavy uninsulated copper bars or iron rods, okay, are inserted. This is the shaft. Okay, this is the shaft. Okay, heavy uninsulated copper bars are inserted in case of squirrel cage rotor. Now see here, this rotor core is made up of with silicon steel. See here, rotor core is made up of with silicon steel laminations to reduce both hysteresis and eddy current losses. Okay, next, already this point is discussed, right? Heavy uninsulated copper bars inserted in the rotor core. Okay, to facilitate the closed path for the conductor, okay, one side should be short circuited by end rings. Okay, to facilitate the closed path for the rotor conductors, one side of rotor bars are short circuited by end rings. Okay, next, in this type of rotor, the rotor poles are induced poles. Okay, in this type of rotor, the rotor poles are induced poles. Induced poles are nothing but with change in stator poles, rotor poles are automatically changed. That means here the rotor poles are imaginary poles. Okay, that means if stator poles are changed to 4, then in directly rotor poles also changes to 4 automatically. Okay, they are imaginary poles. Okay, that is about construction of a squirrel cage rotor. Okay, next coming to the yes, in case of squirrel cage rotor is having very low resistance. Squirrel cage rotor is having low resistance. Okay, because of this low resistance, see here, the starting torque of the induction motor is depends upon resistor. Okay, starting current IST is equals to V by R plus J external Jx. Okay, next, cos pi power factor is equals to R by Z. Now see here, already we know that squirrel cage rotor is having very low resistance, right? That means starting torque will be low. Similarly, when resistance is low, current is high, starting current is high. Okay, again power factor is also less. Next, when resistance is low, starting torque is low, right? Starting torque, but every machine starting torque should be high and starting current should be low, but here opposite is there, right? That means squirrel cage rotor is having inferior starting characteristics, inferior or poor starting characteristics. Why? Because from the machine we expect starting torque should be high, starting current should be low, but that is not possible here, right? Next, this rotor is having low resistance, right? When resistance value is low, copper losses is nothing but I square R losses. Okay, because of this resistance, these losses will be low. When losses are low, performance will be good. That means squirrel cage rotor is having inferior or poor starting characteristics because of this low resistance, good running characteristics. While running, losses is less, performance is good. Okay, that is about squirrel cage rotor. Next, slip ring rotor. Okay, this is the schematic arrangement of slip ring or wound rotor. Now see here, this is the star connected rotor winding. Okay, from each phase, R phase, Y phase, B phase is connected to, these are the slip rings. Okay, on slip rings shaft will be placed. Okay, shaft is a rotating device, right? Okay, these are the brushes. The purpose of brushes is to collect the current. From these brushes to external resistances will be connected, right? Now see here, starting the torque is directly proportional to R plus R external. Because of this presence of additional resistance, what happens? Starting torque is high, starting current is less. Yes, it will satisfy the machine basic conditions, right? That means this slip ring rotor is having good starting characteristics. Okay, because of this resistance, what about the losses? Losses will be more. Okay, when resistance is high, losses also more. When losses more means in running performance is poor. That means slip ring wound rotor is having good starting characteristics but inferior or poor running characteristics. Now see here also slip ring, in case of slip ring rotor also, rotor core made up of with silicon steel laminations to reduce both hysteresis and eddy current losses. Okay, in case of slip ring induction motor, it is having good starting characteristics but poor running characteristics. Okay, now see here slip rings are there, right? These slip rings are made up of with phosphorus branch. Okay, here brushes are made up of with either carbon or graphite. Why? Because it is having a self lubricating property. Okay, next. Okay, here there is a shaft is there, right? Okay, shaft is strong and stiff in order to bear mechanical vibrations. Okay, this shaft is made up of with mild steel. Okay, that is about the construction of a three-phase induction motor. I hope all of you understood, right? Thank you all.